We're doing a series on the 10 Commandments, and we're going backwards. We're starting with number 10, and we're counting down like a rocket ship. 10, 9, 8, 7, and now we're at, where are we at? We're on honor your father and your mother, Exodus 20:12, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. Now, to start this off, I have a quote here from a very famous person, and this is the participation part of today's message, so feel free to chime in. I'm going to quote someone, and I'd like for you to tell me who said this. Okay? The children now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority. They show disrespect for elders and love chatter in places of exercise. Children are now tyrants, not the servants of their households. They no longer rise when elders enter the room. They contradict their parents. They chatter before company. They gobble up the candy at the table. They sit with crossed legs and tyrannize their teachers. Phil Donahue. No. Socrates. This was written 2,400 years ago. You know what? People say much of the same thing today, and I think every generation says that. Now, we're talking about honoring father and mother today, and I have some verses. They're in your bulletin to make it easier for you to find them, and we're going to talk about this commandment. And we have 3 points today we'd like to bring out. That we want to honor father and mother because it comes with a promise. That we also need to honor their position. And we need to be aware of punishment if we don't do these things. So let's begin with the promise. Paul said to the Ephesians when he wrote to them, he said, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on the earth." This is the first commandment with a promise. If you follow this commandment, there's something to go along with it. Now, I have been to St. Augustine, Florida. Are you impressed? Not really? Okay. Well, it's famous for a couple different reasons. It's the oldest city in the United States. All right? And there was a famous explorer who went there. Who was that? He was looking for... Yeah, that's right. That's right. What was he looking for? The fountain of youth. All right? Which is a kind of another way to express wanting to live a long time. Well, guess what? Today, I have found your fountain of youth. Or at least a little, I can get you an extension. How about that? Honor your parents. Honor father and mother. Notice here when it says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord." And then he quotes from Exodus in that passage. And then he has a commentary right there. He says, "Now, this is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on the earth." Life expectancy recently, did you know this? In the last few years, life expectancy has gone down for the first time in a long time. Also, violent crime is on the rise for the first time in a long time. There's something that's changed about society. And even within the last few years, we're starting to see these changes manifest themselves. I think we're noticing that there are some things going on that, we've always had bad things going on, but I think we're starting to notice that it's more often, and sometimes it may be even more intense than what we're used to hearing. Crime is up. Violent crime is up. Sickness is starting to go up. What has happened? You know, some blame cell phone use and social media. They say it really is kind of a recent thing. But what was it, about 2009 when they invented the iPhone? Right around there. And on your phone, what do you have on your phone? Well, you have apps if you want to take the time to download them, and you can do lots of things. And there's things you can do like Facebook and Twitter. But the most popular social media app where people communicate and they make videos for each other to watch is what? Do you guys know?
YouTube.
TikTok. They're discussing banning this. Now, why are they discussing banning this app? Well, there's reasons, and then there's the real reasons. But it's an app that is made in China, and it's produced there, and they're saying that it's data harvesting, that, whatever you do on the app, that the communist Chinese are keeping a log of it. And you know what? I do not doubt that one bit. And it is dangerous because of that. I mean, I'm already starting to notice that if I talk around my phone, that if I mention something like I need to go to the store to get bread, then suddenly I start seeing bread everywhere. Isn't that weird? Somebody's listening in. So I totally understand that. Communist Chinese may be listening in on my phone calls. TikTok is the most popular app the young people enjoy today. But let me tell you what's on TikTok. It is full of deviant sexual talk. Mindless, dumb repetition, and a bunch of time-wasting trends. Now, TikTok is made in China, but we use it over here. Well, I want you to know something. That the Chinese government does not allow the Chinese kids, young people, to see the stuff that our kids are seeing. Do you know what they see on Chinese TikTok? They see things about discipline and responsibility and how to make things and how to produce things and how to be a good person. That's Chinese TikTok. American TikTok, you see every filth under the sun. In this week's news, we heard about a 13-year-old girl who, what? She killed her mother. And why? Because her mother took her phone away from her. Some believe that what's happening to us as a nation is that because our young people are being raised not by their parents anymore, but they belong to the United States government and not to their biological parents. Now, this is the theory. But for many kids, the government feeds them, provides medical care, and teaches them government values like evolution. Therefore, the children are honoring their real parents, the state, by becoming the meaningless, primitive life forms that the schools teach them that they are. Think about this for a second. Proverbs 22:6. I accidentally left this out of your notes. You might want to write this in. Proverbs 22:6 says, "Train up a child the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." That verse there has a promise to it. It says if you train up a child the way he should go, when he is old, he'll stick with it. And we've always kind of wondered, why is it that some kids go off and do what they do? Well, my question is, who's the parent? Because if you train them a certain way, guess what? They will do what they've been taught to do. You know what? I don't know for sure why things are exactly the way they are and why things are different nowadays. But I do know that the younger generation has firmly took over a lot of our institutions. And they've come up with some brilliant ideas like, let's quit funding the police, and we won't persecute criminals if they don't steal over $600. And if anybody does get in trouble, they don't have to pay bail. And they are wondering why crime is increasing with all these brilliant ideas they had. And I hate to say this, but many of them are not putting it together that 2 plus 2 equals 4. That there's ramifications for what we do. And we have a generation that's took over, but doesn't understand that taking over implies responsibility. For whatever reason, if you don't live right, according to Exodus 20, verse 12, if you don't live right, you won't live long. And that is the truth. It may be social ramifications. It could be personal ramifications. But I tell you what, if you want to live long, you've got to honor your parents. Now, let's talk about honoring their position, like who they are as parents. Because sometimes we may be in a position where our parents didn't know how to do certain things or how to instill certain values in us. And we still need to honor our parents. It says in Colossians 3:20, it says, "Children, obey your parents in all things, for this is well-pleasing to the Lord." Children, obey your parents in all things. Now, Christian children need to obey their parents. We kind of don't expect the kids who grow up in non-Christian households to understand this concept. But we expect Christians to understand this because the ideal of a higher authority is a very Christian concept. The ideal that we honor God and God is in charge. That's something that we learn from Scripture. Before, I have a quote for you I want to share, but I want to go back now to all 10 commandments. And there's this tradition that they were on 2 tablets. And not necessarily, they all could have been written on 1. But there's a tradition that they're written on 2, and they're grouped in 2 groups. Like their first 4 is over here, and then the second 6 are on the other side. And the thinking is that the first 4 deal specifically with God. It says, "I'm the Lord your God. I'm the only God. Don't make an idol. Don't make idols. Do not use the Lord's name in vain, and honor the Sabbath." Those are commandments that have to deal with God. And they say those 4 go there, and then the other 6 go together. Well, some people, though, think maybe it should be the first 5 and the second 5. Because if you remember the 10th commandment, which says, "Do not covet," and then from covet, it says, "Do not steal," and "Do not commit adultery," and it says, "Do not murder." The do nots. Well, you won't do those things if you don't covet. It seems like number 10, if you understand number 10, you won't do any of those on that right-hand side. The interactions between mankind and how we treat each other. But on the other side, what some people have speculated is, if you don't know how to honor your parents, you won't understand how to honor God. That maybe it's the first 5, and that the 5th one is the reason why we don't do commandments 1 through 4. And on the second side, you have a 6 through 10, and 10 coveting is the reasons why we don't honor those commandments. The reason I bring this up is that I think there is some worthy discussion to be had about understanding our parents and being able to follow what God says. Christian author Frank Peretti, on speaking about God as Lord, said this about authority and training up children. And this is from his famous video teaching called The Chair. And he says this: "It used to be that families were raised on godly principles. Even the kids would see that mom and dad were subject to a higher authority. Of course, as time goes by, kids grow up and have children of their own. They tell them, you should do what I tell you, and when the children ask why, they appeal to human reasons, because they'll say, that's how I was raised." You see, in just one generation, it went from because God said so to my personal experience, and this is how I done it. Well, then those kids grow up, and they tell their own children, you should listen to me. And the child responds, who says? And the parent insists, I say, and you have to do what I tell you. But the child just retorts, essentially, that's your truth. I have my own reality. Now, a kid wouldn't phrase it that way, but a kid is instantly going to start challenging your authority if they feel like they can get away with it. You see, the answer is not because you don't say you do this because this is how I grew up. And you don't say you do this because I'm bigger than you. The proper answer to the question is, why must I obey my parents, is this. You should say, here's the truth. God has placed me in authority over you to raise you according to his standards of moral behavior. But the authority chain doesn't stop with me. I too have to answer to him for how I raise you. The ultimate authority in the universe has passed that responsibility down to me. He's given me his laws, his precepts, and his principles, and I must pass them down to you, as we are both accountable to him. Now take out the trash. That's how it works. Please understand, I'm not saying these are the exact words you say, but this is the life you live. You demonstrate that you are under authority so that your children will respect your authority. When we start saying this is how we've always done it, or you have to do it because I'm bigger than you, then you're making arguments and trying to reason with a child because of tradition or because of pure power. There's more to it than just those things. It's about authority pointing to God. If you have an adult that feels like they are responsible to God, it's going to be easier for the child to understand that they need to be responsible too. This takes us to our third point, that there is a punishment if we don't honor our parents. Matthew 15:4 says, "For God commanded, saying, Honor thy father and mother, and he that curseth father and mother, let him die the death." I use the King James there. It has a kind of more of a foreboding ring to it. But see, in just a few generations, we have gone from God as Lord to arguing for a tradition to a power struggle to see who's going to give up first when it comes to rearing children. Do you know what I mean by the power struggle? I'm talking about that kid at Walmart who's screaming because you didn't buy them the toy that they wanted or give them the candy bar from the impulse section or whatever else that they think they need. And so they yell and they scream and they embarrass you in public trying to break you. This is the power struggle. Why? Well, because if you as a parent don't fear God, then your children won't fear you. And this is what we're trying to teach young couples. Unfortunately, we look around in our church, we don't have them here. Not right now. But I tell you what, there's a whole generation of young people that need to be reminded of this. We got a lot of people in their 20s, their 30s, and 40s. And they are struggling because they have listened to every talk show host. They've listened to every expert on television, but they have drifted far from the Word of God. There is an expectation that God has that we honor father and mother. But you know what? I tell you what, we've all made mistakes. And we can all be forgiven of those mistakes if we can just be humble enough and repentant enough, maybe to ask for those things. I think we maybe have some parents that need to apologize for some of the things they may have done wrong. But also, we got a lot of kids, I tell you why, they need to apologize for not respecting their parents. And I tell you what, God is going to hold us all responsible, but he is going to hold the young ones too. The young ones need to beware. They need to beware. We need to honor our parents. Why? Because it teaches us to honor God. That's honoring their position. And then we need to honor our parents because, you know what? Once you learn how to put yourself under someone's authority, you know what that does? That makes you a better employee. That makes you a better worker. And you know what? Your life's going to turn out a lot better. And you know what? I think you'll have a better life, a longer life, and a more fulfilling life. And it's almost so simple, you kind of feel like, do we even need to preach on this or bring it up? Well, it's foundational. It's part of the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments. 10 of the most important things that God could come up with to organize a society. We tore these 10 Commandments down when? In the 90s. About 30 years ago, America started to sow the seeds of its destruction. 30 years later, people aren't living as long, not living as well, and we're seeing the ramifications of that action.